They say hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, but they never met a man betrayed by his wife and his best employee. If you hit him again, I'll call the police and say you're committing domestic violence, my ex-wife hissed, right after I caught her cheating with my own sales manager. It took me 2 agonizing years to plan, but I turned their celebration into the most humiliating, public downfall imaginable. 2 years to the day after the divorce papers were signed, the police knocked on my door. They were investigating a hit and run. I'd spent exactly 730 days setting the stage for this moment, and their arrival meant the fish was finally about to jump out of the net all by itself. It was a Tuesday morning, 9 a.m. sharp. The Mexico City sunlight streamed through the windows of my rundown living room. I was settled on my worn-out sofa, pretending to flip through an antique magazine, just waiting for that inevitable series of knocks. Knock, knock, knock. 3 urgent, solid raps shattered the morning quiet. I got up and walked to the door, deliberately dragging my feet. I made sure I looked sufficiently wrecked. A 2-day beard, a stained, wrinkled shirt I'd actually spilled beer on the night before, and carefully drawn dark circles under my eyes. I'd even sprayed a little alcohol on myself to smell like a proper drunk. These details weren't random. They were essential props in my performance. Through the peephole, I saw 2 police officers, exactly as rehearsed. I switched my expression to one of confusion and fear, then pulled the door open. "Mr. Declan Harwell?" the tall officer asked, his eyes sharp and professionally scrutinizing. "Yes, that's me." I rubbed my eyes, feigning grogginess. "Is there a problem, officer?" "We are investigating a hit-and-run case," the shorter officer said, flipping open his notebook. "The night before last, around 8 o'clock in the evening, a white Toyota pickup truck registered to your company hit a pedestrian on Mariana Street in the South District and fled. The license plate matches one of your company's vehicles." My eyes popped open. My look of confusion instantly dissolved into shock and righteous anger. What? Who in God's name would use my company truck to run someone over? This is absolutely outrageous. I raised my voice, even punching the wall once for effect, radiating shock and indignation. Just then, my phone rang. I glanced at it, pretending to be annoyed by the interruption. It was Victor. The timing, of course, was part of my meticulous plan. "Excuse me, officers, that's my company's sales manager," I said, then deliberately hit the speakerphone to answer. "Hello, boss. Are you feeling better today?" Victor's voice was dripping with fake concern. "Don't worry about the company stuff. I've got everything under control. Remember that big client I mentioned yesterday? Mr. Costinos is super interested. I want to meet with him again today. Oh, by the way, I might need to use the company's new pickup truck. The client loves going for drives." I cut him off, my tone strained. "Victor, there are police officers at my house right now saying one of the company's trucks ran someone over. Do you know anything about this?" There was a noticeable 1-second dead silence on the line. I could practically see Victor's smug expression snap into sheer horror. When you've done something wrong, the sound of police knocking is the scariest thing in the world. I wanted him to panic. I wanted him to show his cards. "What? That's absurd," he forced out, his voice higher than usual, the nervousness impossible to hide. "It has to be a mistake. Don't worry, boss, I'll go see what's happening right now. What car are they looking for? I'll check the warehouse." "White Toyota pickup truck, hit and run on Mariana Street." I rattled off quickly, watching the officers from the corner of my eye as they scribbled down our conversation. "Understood. I'll sort it out immediately. You just rest well. Don't think about it. Leave this small matter to me." Victor hung up. I turned back to the police and shrugged wearily. "Sorry about that. I haven't been well lately. Victor, my sales manager, handles most company affairs. He's a capable young man. At least, he used to be." I deliberately let my voice trail off. "Could you gentlemen accompany me to the company to take a look? I'll absolutely cooperate and help you catch whoever did this." The tall officer nodded. "Of course, Mr. Harwell. We were just planning a visit to your company to investigate the situation." "I'll change my clothes right away," I said, turning and walking back into the room. Out of sight of the police, I allowed myself a single, cold smile. My prey was panicking, and this was just the first move. 10 minutes later, I put on a clean, though still wrinkled, shirt. I drove my beat-up 2005 Ford sedan, leading the police to the company warehouse in the suburbs. On the way, I deliberately talked their ears off, rambling about how I grew my business from a small fruit farm to an avocado exporter, and how the divorce had completely destroyed me. "I used to have a nice car, too," I said, hitting the steering wheel with a self-deprecating pat. "But after the divorce, everything changed, you know? Some wounds just can't be healed by time." The officers politely nodded. They definitely noticed my old car and my disheveled state. This was exactly the image of a washed-up loser I'd carefully crafted for the last 2 years. When we pulled up to the warehouse, Victor was already waiting. He was the complete opposite of me, dressed in a custom, dark blue suit worth at least 60,000 Mexican pesos. He wore shiny Italian leather shoes and the Rolex I'd gifted him on his wrist. Of course, he didn't know it was a high-quality fake, barely worth a few thousand pesos. Seeing him proudly wear that fake watch every single day was one of my few private joys. Boss, you shouldn't have come yourself. Victor rushed over, pretending to put a comforting hand on my shoulder. Then he turned to the police and introduced himself smoothly. Victor Morales, company sales director. How can I help you, officers? We need to inspect all company vehicles, the tall officer said, especially the white Toyota pickup truck. Of course, Victor was overly cooperative. All the vehicles should be in the garage. I'll take you there right now. Santos, I suddenly shouted, interrupting Victor's little performance. Come here. A man in his 60s with a deeply wrinkled face shuffled out of the office. Santos's eyes were cloudy but sharp. He looked at me, then at Victor. What is it, boss? He asked. The police say one of our cars was used in a hit and run. Do you know anything? I asked him directly. Santos shook his head, his voice serious. No, I don't. All the vehicles should be here. It must be a mistake, Victor jumped in. Our fleet is small, just a few trucks, all under strict management. We all headed to the garage. A quick check confirmed a white truck was missing. I put on my best surprised look. This is impossible. Who would steal our car? It must have been stolen. Victor interrupted immediately. I saw this car here yesterday when I left at 5 p.m. I'll report it stolen to the police right now. Who was the last person you let drive this car? The shorter officer stared intently at Victor. I pretended to think hard. I need to check the logbook. Santos, bring me the vehicle usage records. Santos quickly produced the logbook and opened it to the most recent page. The last person to use this car was Mr. Victor 3 days ago, the afternoon of the incident. The record shows he was entertaining the client, Mr. Costinos. Victor's face twitched slightly, but he quickly recovered. Yes, I borrowed it briefly, but I returned it that same afternoon at 6 o'clock, parked in this exact spot. I've been busy with clients for the last 2 days and haven't used it since. Are you absolutely sure you returned it at 6 o'clock? The tall officer pressed. Of course, Victor said confidently. I remember it clearly because I was rushing to dinner. How strange, I interjected, looking thoughtful. Santos, you were at the warehouse all day yesterday, right? Did you see this truck? Santos shook his head. I didn't see this truck yesterday. I thought Mr. Victor had borrowed it again. Victor's nervousness was now obvious. I didn't borrow it again. Maybe someone stole it. We should call the police. We need to speak to you in detail, Mr. Victor, the tall officer stated. Also, we'd like to review the warehouse surveillance footage. Of course, Victor agreed instantly, though I caught a quick, furtive glance from his eyes. However, we only have surveillance at the main entrance. The back entrance camera broke a long time ago, and we haven't repaired it yet. That, of course, was exactly the response I was looking for. What Victor didn't know was that I'd installed a hidden camera at the back entrance over a year ago. The recordings were transmitted directly to my private server, completely separate from the company's monitoring system. No problem. Let's check the main entrance recordings first, the officer said. Santos led the police off to review the footage. Once they were gone, Victor leaned in and whispered to me, "Don't worry, boss. I'll handle this small issue. Just go home and rest. Leave it to me." I nodded, my eyes vacant, playing the broken man. Okay, you take care of it. I'm just not feeling well today. I'll head back. Victor patted my shoulder with that same arrogant, condescending attitude I hated, but I managed a small, grateful smile. Thanks, Victor. I don't know what I'd do without you. That sentence, in fact, was the truest thing I'd said all day, though he couldn't possibly know its real meaning. Before leaving, I quietly told Santos, "Get me the spare key to the warehouse. I think I lost mine." Santos understood immediately, handing me a key and whispering, "Everything is arranged." I drove away, and after confirming no one was trailing me, I made several winding turns. I finally headed straight for an abandoned cannery in the suburbs. My father used to work here. It had been abandoned for years and was now my secret base. I circled to the back, parking my car behind a row of rusted cargo containers where it was invisible from the outside. As soon as I got out, I peeled off the wrinkled shirt, swapping it for a clean black t-shirt and jeans. I put on a pair of sunglasses and a baseball cap. Instantly, I looked fresher, sharper. This was the real me, not the pathetic wreck I played for the world. After checking that the coast was clear, I walked up to a dilapidated wall with an ordinary-looking electrical box. I used the key, opened the box, and there was a combination lock inside. I entered 6 digits, Celeste's birthday plus the day we got married. An ironic combination, I thought. A section of the cement wall silently slid open, revealing a hidden passage. At the end of the passage was my command center, a simple, 30-square-meter room, fully equipped. On one wall hung a massive relationship chart with photos of Celeste and Victor at the center. Red lines and sticky notes detailed their financial dealings, call records, secret meeting spots, everything. In one corner, several high-performance computers and monitors displayed data and live surveillance feeds. Just as I entered, Rico came out of the back room. Rico was my distant cousin, 26, thin, and street smart. Growing up on the harsh streets of Mexico City, he possessed survival instincts and a nose for danger most people couldn't imagine. 3 years ago, I bailed him out of jail after a fight, and he'd been absolutely loyal to me ever since, my most capable assistant. "Boss, how did it go with the police?" Rico asked, handing me a cup of hot coffee. "Better than expected." I took a sip, savoring the strong, rich aroma. Victor is already terrified. He came up with a clumsy lie about the car being stolen. He's such a fool. Rico laughed. The surveillance caught everything perfectly. Stupid people always think they're the smartest. I walked over to the screen and pulled up a surveillance video. Look at this idiot digging his own grave. The recording showed Victor driving the company's white pickup truck out of the back entrance of the warehouse. The timestamp was 7:48 p.m. on the night of the incident. A young, flashy guy sat in the passenger seat. I recognized him immediately. Trevor Costanos, the spoiled son of a local rich man who had recently become Victor's prized client. "Your plan is flawless," Rico praised. Who knew that speed demon Trevor would be so easy to lure? "Human nature is terribly easy to exploit," I said, "especially the arrogance of fools like them." The hit and run, you see, was no accident. A week earlier, I found out Victor was taking this important client, Trevor, out. My intelligence network revealed Trevor had two passions: luxury cars and street racing. So, I had Rico accidentally meet him at a bar Victor frequented. Rico, driving a borrowed BMW M5, caught Trevor's eye outside. During their chat, Rico casually mentioned a newly built suburban road perfect for high-speed runs, then intentionally challenged him. "Some guys only drive their dad's car," Rico sneered. "They never actually dare to race. Real Mexican men rely on their own skill, not their daddy's money." Trevor took the bait hook, line, and sinker. He dragged Victor out, insisting on an impromptu race on that very road to impress the client. Victor, eager to please, borrowed the company truck. I had already made preparations. I found Sofia, a coffee shop waitress, and paid her 100,000 Mexican pesos to accidentally appear on the road at a precise time and location. To guarantee her safety, we had thorough arrangements, including an ambulance and a private doctor station nearby. As expected, the drunk, swaggering Trevor, with Victor driving, hit Sofia on a curve while speeding. Panicked, they never stopped to check, just fled the scene. "How is Sofia?" I asked Rico. "Minor injuries. She was discharged already," Rico replied. "She's ecstatic about the money and our arrangement. Says it was the easiest money she ever made. Her performance was convincing, too. She's already given a statement to the police that she can identify the hit-and-run driver." "This is just the first step," I said, walking to the relationship chart. I took out a red pen and wrote hit and run and the date next to Victor's picture. Now, the real hunt begins. I pulled up another video. This one showed Victor at a repair shop, fixing the dented front of the truck and paying the mechanic entirely in cash. "How did you get the workshop recordings?" I asked. "I spent 20,000 Mexican pesos to bribe the mechanic," Rico said. "He took the money instantly and even offered close-ups of Victor handing over the cash. Turns out, the guy really disliked Victor's arrogant attitude." "Excellent," I nodded. "With this evidence, Victor can't escape the hit-and-run charge. But we won't give it to the police yet. Let him stew in fear for a while." I turned to the computer and opened an email. "Look, the invitation from the United States has been sent." The screen displayed an invitation letter from Freshmart, inviting Latin American avocado suppliers to bid on a massive tender. The contract was worth up to 200 million Mexican pesos over 5 years. It was an irresistible temptation for any avocado exporter. "Derek's performance has to be convincing," I stressed. "Victor needs to believe this is 100% real." "Derek won't let you down," Rico assured me. "He owes you more than anyone. He said he'll play the perfect American jerk this time. Make Victor hate him, but have to grovel to him." I nodded, satisfied. Derek was an old friend, working for a major U.S. supermarket chain. 10 years ago, when he was just a nobody purchasing assistant, I took a risk and gave him a huge order, helping him establish himself. Now, that favor was being repaid. "One more thing," I told Rico. "Go contact Gutierrez." Rico frowned. "Gutierrez? The loan shark? Dealing with that snake boss is dangerous." "Don't worry. I won't contact him directly," I explained. "I need you to go to the cigar bar he frequents and casually mention that Victor is raising a large sum of money to secure a multi-million-dollar contract. Also, hint that Victor is hosting a huge party at the Leon Hotel next Friday." Rico's eyes widened in comprehension. "I get it. Gutierrez smells money like a shark smells blood. He'll go straight to Victor on his own." "Exactly." I smiled coldly. "Greed and fear are people's easiest weaknesses. Victor and Gutierrez both have plenty of both." Over the past 2 years, I had built a solid intelligence network. Santos was my eyes on the inside, monitoring every movement within the company. Victor didn't know I had fully paid the 1.6 million Mexican pesos in medical bills for Santos's gravely ill son and helped him find specialists in the U.S. Santos's loyalty to me was absolute. Every week, he'd send me detailed reports disguised as inventory summaries. The day Victor diverted grade A fruit and replaced it with grade B. The length and nature of Victor and Celeste's private office conversations. The clients Victor secretly stole. This information was the bedrock of my revenge. Rico handled the external intelligence. He hung out in Victor's favorite bars and clubs, befriending bartenders and waitresses. He gathered endless information on Victor's bragging, his ostentation, and even his flirtations with other women. Sometimes I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and the smell of that disgusting mix of alcohol and betrayal from that day in my bedroom would still feel fresh. 2 years hadn't faded the feeling one bit. 2 years ago, a Thursday, I was supposed to be at a 3-day supplier conference in Monterey, but it was suddenly canceled, and I came home early. When I opened the bedroom door, I saw the most unacceptable scene of my life. My wife, Celeste, and my protege, Victor, in my bed. The room reeked of sex and betrayal. Even worse, the company's financial statements and customer lists were carelessly scattered on the nightstand. They weren't just cheating. They were conspiring to steal the business I'd built over a decade of brutal, hard work. I lost it. I leaped, grabbed Victor by the throat, dragged him off the bed, and punched him in the face. His nose bled, but he just cowered. Celeste started screaming and wrapped herself in a sheet. But just as I was about to keep attacking, Celeste grabbed her phone. "If you hit him again," she shrieked, "I'm calling the police and saying you're committing domestic violence. I have evidence." She pointed at the documents on the nightstand. "These are all the unequal agreements you forced me to sign. Everyone knows you've been mentally unstable lately. I have recordings, evidence that you've threatened me." In that moment, a chilling realization hit me. They had planned this. They had laid a trap. If I kept fighting, I'd lose the company, suffer a legal backlash, and ruin my reputation. I had to stop. I stared deadly at Celeste, at the woman I had once loved so deeply. The calculating coldness in her eyes sickened me. 12 years of marriage evaporated in a single breath. I thought I knew her, but I realized I had never known her at all. "Get out of my house," I told Victor, my voice dangerously cold. "Tomorrow, I'll be waiting for your explanation at the company." Victor scrambled to get dressed and fled, but he made sure to snatch those documents on his way out. Celeste started to cry, weakly trying to explain it away as a momentary mistake, that they were just discussing company matters. She even hinted that if I dropped it, our marriage could still be saved. But I had seen everything. This was not a moment of passion. It was a carefully plotted betrayal and conspiracy. I left the house and sat in my car all night, desperately calculating how to handle the crisis. When the first streaks of dawn hit the windshield, I made my decision. No immediate explosion. No anger clouding my judgment. I would wait, observe, and collect every single piece of evidence until the day I could destroy them completely. To get back what was mine, I needed to die first. Let them believe I had collapsed, that I was a broken victim they could easily manipulate. Then, at their highest point of arrogance, I would deliver a fatal blow. That was my plan. Let them believe I was defeated. Let them get comfortable, greedy, and arrogant. As we say in Mexico, the snake in the grass is the most lethal. Playing the role of the defeated loser was my perfect camouflage. The divorce agreement was signed quickly. Surprisingly, Celeste didn't demand much, only the basic division of property, waiving any claim to the company. I knew she and Victor were planning to seize control through other means. After the divorce, I moved to a small apartment in the suburbs and began my performance of decadence. I grew careless on purpose. I started drinking heavily. I seemed distracted in crucial client meetings. I made sure the company's performance looked like it was in a steady decline. Every time Victor reported to the board about the dwindling profits, I just nodded silently, as if all interest in the business had vanished. The rumors about me spread like wildfire. Mental breakdown, alcoholism, severe depression. I encouraged it all. I deliberately left empty bottles in the company bathroom trash for the cleaning staff to find and report. I even appeared drunk at an important meeting once, slurring nonsense to a key client, forcing Victor to smoothly step in and save the day. Even my oldest friends worried. They invited me to dinner, urging me to get help, but I always declined, citing poor health. I trusted only a small circle, Santos, Rico, and my old partner, Ernesto. Meanwhile, Victor and Celeste grew increasingly brazen. Victor started to privately embezzle company funds, falsify contract terms, and even forge my signature on documents. He replaced several loyal, long-time employees with his own cronies and began harassing the remaining staff. In a general meeting, he outright announced the cancellation of year-end bonuses, blaming operational difficulties. This infuriated the employees, but Victor assumed they were just replaceable pawns. The most infuriating part was how he started squeezing the farmers. He used flimsy excuses to slash their purchase prices, threatening to cancel their partnerships if they didn't cooperate. These farmers were my lifelong partners. Their livelihoods depended on our company's orders. Watching them being intimidated, I wanted to expose Victor right then, but I knew it wasn't time. Celeste, acting as the company's first lady, flaunted her new status, frequently appearing at luxury venues with Victor to meet clients. She even posted suggestive photos on social media, hinting that I was a finished man and that she and Victor were building a glorious future. They truly believed they had crushed me, that I was a helpless loser ripe for the taking. But every failure they saw was meticulously planned to feed their arrogance and draw them deeper into my trap. Just as Rico and I were finalizing our next steps, my phone rang. It was Santos. Boss, his voice was hushed. The police just reviewed the main entrance surveillance. They didn't find anything unusual. Victor claimed the vehicle might have been stolen and volunteered to go to the station for questioning. Very good, I said. Let him go. But make sure to tell the police that even though the back entrance camera is supposedly broken, we actually have backup recordings. When the time is right, I will personally deliver the evidence. Understood, Santos replied briefly and hung up. I told Rico, Victor is going to the police station. He'll spin a clumsy story about vehicle theft. The police don't have enough evidence to hold him now, but the pending case will make him desperate to escape his situation. Now is the time for the next phase. I'll contact all the clients Victor stole, Rico said. I'll tell them the Harwell company is on the verge of bankruptcy and can no longer guarantee service. I'll wish them happy cooperation with Victor. Exactly. That will plant seeds of suspicion about Victor's stability, I added. At the same time, I need you to spread the word among the farmers that my company is only worth 4 million Mexican pesos and could collapse any day. I pulled a fake asset evaluation report from my drawer. I had this made. Make sure it finds its way to Victor and Celeste. They'll believe they can acquire the whole company for 4 million. It's a temptation they won't be able to resist. One more thing, Rico cautioned. What about Gutierrez? He's not someone you want to mess with. Gutierrez was a notorious loan shark known for his brutal enforcement methods. Rumor had it he'd made debtors disappear without a trace. Everyone in Mexico knew his rules. Borrowing is easy, paying is the hard part. Get involved with him, and you're finished unless you pay in full. If Victor actually goes to him for a loan, he's digging his own grave, I said coldly. Will he really see Gutierrez, though? Rico sounded genuinely doubtful. That man is a snake. I smiled dismissively. Victor will do anything for money. Our intelligence shows he's already invested all his savings, about 8 million Mexican pesos. Celeste has 10 million from her inheritance, but they're still short 6 million. I pointed to the Fresmart invitation on the monitor. Look, in the tender document, I specified that 16 million pesos are needed as a performance bond, plus 4 million to acquire my company. That's 20 million pesos total. Believe me, Victor will find a way to get the money. Rico nodded, convinced. I hope he doesn't disappoint us. He won't, I said confidently. Greed will destroy his judgment. Besides, I've prepared a special surprise for him. In the days that followed, our plan unfolded perfectly. First, Victor went to the police station for questioning, sticking to his story that the vehicle was stolen. He claimed he had filed a theft report, which had conveniently disappeared. The police were skeptical but couldn't act without direct evidence. Meanwhile, Rico contacted key industry figures, spreading the news about my company's impending collapse. The news swept through the Mexico City avocado circle. Victor swallowed it whole, becoming even more arrogant in the company. He called an emergency meeting and, under the guise of restructuring, fired 3 senior employees, including an accountant who had been with me for 10 years. He cited human resources optimization. He also forced all remaining employees to work overtime on a massive, completely non-existent order. These actions created countless enemies inside the company. Employees started whispering, and some secretly went to Santos, asking about me and hinting they wanted me to return. This was the exact internal erosion I wanted. Victor losing the support of the people through his own arrogance, paving the way for my final counterattack. Just as Victor was basking in his perceived brilliance, he received the exclusive invitation from Fresmart. Predictably, he was ecstatic, immediately rushing to tell Celeste. Our recording equipment in the conference room caught the entire conversation. Honey, this is our chance, Victor said, his voice practically vibrating with excitement. Fresmart is one of the biggest organic food chains in the States, and they want to sign a long-term supply contract with us. Really? That's amazing. Celeste's voice was filled with delight. How much is the contract? At least 200 million Mexican pesos over 5 years, Victor practically shouted. That means a net profit of at least 40 million pesos annually. We can use that money to buy the best villa in the city, the life you've always wanted. You know that villa in Barrio Alto with the pool? We can buy it outright. But, Celeste's voice suddenly worried. Do you have the capacity to supply them? Declan's farmers are incredibly loyal. They won't cooperate easily. Don't worry, Victor boasted. I've already stolen several of his clients. Besides, that loser Declan is nearly bankrupt, and his suppliers are desperate for new business. If I offer a slightly higher price, they'll line up for me. Honestly, I don't even need those old farmers. With this money, I can buy directly from large, high-quality farms. Better quality, more stable prices. Oh, honey, you're so smart, Celeste gushed, full of admiration. I knew you were so much better than Declan. He's an idiot. He never deserved your talent. Listening to them openly belittle me, I clenched my fists, then forced myself to relax. Anger was a luxury I couldn't afford. I needed calm. I needed patience. So, how much startup capital do we need? Celeste asked, balancing anticipation with concern. Victor paused. Around 20 million pesos. We need 4 million to acquire the remnants of Declan's company, plus 16 million as a contract performance bond. 20 million pesos. Celeste gasped. My God, where are we going to get that kind of money? I already have 8 million, Victor countered. The rest is up to you. Didn't you say your parents left you an inheritance? After a long silence, Celeste finally responded. I only have 10 million. We're still short 6 million. I'll find a way, Victor said confidently. For our future, there's no obstacle I can't overcome. Hearing this, I couldn't help but smile faintly. They were just as I predicted, blinded by the promise of enormous wealth and desperate to raise the funds. Victor had no idea I had deliberately leaked the news that the Harwell company was only worth 4 million pesos. A week later, Victor had his video interview with Freshmart. My friend, Derek, played the part of the stern American Accusations director flawlessly. He wore an impeccable dark blue suit and gold-rimmed glasses, his expression grave, as if attending a funeral. During the call, Derek subjected Victor to a series of harsh demands. Mr. Morales, Derek stated, we need every avocado to meet the U.S.'s strictest food safety standards. Any pesticide residue results in the rejection of entire shipments. You must complete the entire process, from harvest to shipping, within 72 hours. Any delay will incur massive penalties. The 16 million pesos performance bond must be wired to our designated third-party escrow account before the contract is signed. This is non-negotiable. We will also permanently station quality inspection teams in your warehouse, and you will provide their office space and accommodation at your own expense. These difficult requirements didn't make Victor suspicious at all. On the contrary, they convinced him this contract was incredibly real. In his mind, the more demanding the client, the more valuable the deal. After the conference call, Victor immediately met Celeste. They celebrated in a private room at a luxurious restaurant. Everything went perfectly, Victor said excitedly, raising his champagne glass. That American was rude, but he was clearly satisfied with our proposal. He said we could sign next week. Excellent. Celeste raised her glass to clink, but her voice was tight. But we're still short 6 million pesos. Do you have any ideas? Victor's expression turned serious. There is a way, but it's very risky. I know a loan shark named Gutierrez. He can give us the money, but his terms are brutal. A 1 million peso upfront interest payment, and 10% monthly interest for the first month. If you're late, it's an additional 5% cumulative interest every week. That's insane. Celeste gasped. If we can't pay, the consequences would be unthinkable. You're forgetting the Freshmart contract, Victor whispered. The first advance payment after signing will be 40 million pesos. We can immediately pay off the loan and make a massive profit. Celeste still hesitated. But what if something goes wrong? Nothing will go wrong, Victor insisted, his voice firm. This is our chance. We overcome this, and we have the life you've always dreamed of. Do you trust me? Celeste finally nodded. Okay, if you think this is the best way. Just as Rico predicted, Gutierrez was very interested in the news of the massive contract. The next day, one of his men proactively approached Victor, offering to solve his financing problem. Victor eagerly accepted, agreeing to meet the following day to discuss the details. That afternoon, Victor went to meet Gutierrez in the South District. It looked like a lottery ticket shop, but it was actually the loan shark's headquarters. In Gutierrez's office, Victor signed the loan contract and pressed his bloody thumbprint onto the paper. This was a symbol in the Mexican underworld that meant a willingness to pay with one's own life if they defaulted. Gutierrez told him in a gravelly voice, remember this. In my business, there is no such word as bankruptcy, only payment. 1 month, not a day longer. Otherwise, face the consequences. Victor nervously accepted all the terms. He would need to pay back 6.8 million pesos in 1 month. After the upfront interest, he only walked away with 5 million pesos, plus 1.8 million in interest due. With the funds finally secured, Victor started planning his victory party. He rented the most luxurious ballroom in the city's Leon Hotel. He invited everyone in the industry, including local financial reporters. He intended to announce the acquisition of my company and show off his golden contract with Freshmart. The party was scheduled for Friday night at 7 p.m. The afternoon before the party, Victor came to my office, his face full of false sympathy. Declan, he said, sitting across from me. I know this is tough, but business is business. I'm willing to acquire your company for 4 million pesos. Given the state of things, this is the best offer you'll get. I played the dejected man perfectly. I lowered my head, my hands trembling slightly, as if fighting overwhelming emotion. Then, I slowly looked up, my voice hoarse. Victor, you know what? When I founded this company 12 years ago, I started with only 100,000 pesos and the support of 3 farmers. Now, well, for million it is. I signed the transfer agreement with a visibly trembling hand, then closed my eyes as if I couldn't bear to face reality. Victor barely contained his satisfaction. He stood up and gave me a condescending pat on the shoulder. Declan, I'm inviting you to my party tomorrow night. Even though the company's changing hands, you'll always be our respected founder. The moment he left the office, I turned to Santos, who was standing nearby. Notify everyone. Tomorrow night's party. See you there. Santos nodded, his eyes shining with anticipation. 730 days of waiting is finally over. Yes, I said, finally allowing a genuine smile to surface. This will be a party they never, ever forget. As we say in Mexico, today's lamb becomes tomorrow's wolf. The night of the party, I dressed more carefully than usual. I put on the tailor-made suit I'd kept hidden away. I trimmed my beard and even got a haircut. I looked clean, sharp, and revitalized. When I walked into the ballroom, many old friends looked stunned. Some didn't even recognize me. The ballroom was breathtakingly opulent. A huge ice sculpture of Victor International Foods Limited stood in the center. Champagne towers and flowers flanked the stage. Guests in formal attire mingled, glasses in hand. The air was thick with the scent of fine champagne and Spanish conversation. Victor was the star, radiant in a shiny blue suit, constantly shaking hands and grinning triumphantly. Celeste, wearing a dazzlingly expensive red dress, laughed with a cluster of rich wives, her jewelry sparkling brilliantly. I stood quietly in a corner, watching it all unfold. Soon, several old clients came up, surprised by my transformation. Declan, is that really you? One old client asked. I almost didn't recognize you. It's me, I smiled. Today is a special day. I wanted to dress the part. I heard you sold the company to Victor, he whispered. Really? Only for 4 million pesos? That's ridiculous. I know the company's been struggling, but it's worth at least 10 million. I didn't answer directly. Instead, I gave him a mysterious smile. You'll know the truth tonight. I looked around and saw that many of the old farmers and suppliers were there, including Ernesto. He was the leader of the local farmers cooperative, a respected, energetic man of 70. He was my oldest friend and partner. Seeing me, he gave a slight nod, his eyes conveying unwavering support. 3 days prior, I'd met with Ernesto and told him the entire plan. Victor had actually visited Ernesto the day before, offering him a tempting contract to work exclusively with him, on the condition that he completely cut ties with me. Ernesto rejected Victor immediately, but kept his rejection polite, saying he needed time to think. This led Victor to believe he could still win Ernesto over, which is why he was invited tonight. As 8 p.m. approached, Victor tapped the microphone, signaling the start of the ceremony. The ballroom fell silent, all eyes on the stage. Distinguished guests, dear friends, Victor began, his voice loud and brimming with confidence. Today is a special day, one we should all remember. I am thrilled to announce that, effective immediately, the former Harwell Avocado Export Company will be officially renamed Victor International Foods Limited. A smattering of applause followed, but it wasn't enthusiastic. I saw many old farmers and suppliers looking confused and suspicious. I want to especially thank Declan, Victor continued, looking right at me with a sickening expression of false gratitude. His years of mentorship led to my success today. Although the company has struggled in recent years, I believe that under my leadership, it will return to its peak. Declan, please raise your glass and toast to your past contributions. Everyone turned to me, waiting for my move. I slowly raised my glass, smiling, but I didn't drink. Finally, I have some exhilarating news to share. Victor flashed a mysterious grin. Our company has just secured an exclusive supply contract with the American chain Freshmart, worth over 200 million pesos. This is our first major step into the international market. This time, the applause was a little louder, followed by a sudden burst of whispered conversation. Victor raised his glass to new beginnings. Cheers. Just as he was about to drink, I started walking toward the stage. Victor, my voice cut through the noise. It wasn't loud, but it was enough to silence the whole room. Before you celebrate, may I say a few words? Victor was clearly taken aback, but he quickly recovered, smiling tightly. Of course, Declan. Please. I stepped onto the stage and looked out at the crowd. Everyone held their breath, expecting a farewell speech or a gracious surrender. I didn't look at Victor. I focused instead on the faces of my old partners who had stood by me for years. I began slowly. I didn't come here today to say goodbye. I came to do some cleaning. Victor's smile vanished. Celeste shot up from her chair, looking terrified. For years, I continued, I have believed that integrity is the only foundation for business. But some people, for personal gain, will betray trust and hurt others without hesitation. Tonight, I intend to expose 2 of those people. Victor finally realized the danger and tried to interrupt. Declan, what are you doing? We signed a contract. The company is mine now. Is it really? I gave him a look of utter disdain and pulled a document from my pocket. This is the transfer agreement you pressured me to sign yesterday. But you forgot one thing. According to Mexican commercial law, any company transfer must be notarized to be effective. This document has not been notarized at all. Victor's face went white. But that's just the beginning. I gave a signal, and Rico wheeled a chair onto the stage. A young woman with a cast on her right leg sat in it. Everyone, this is Sophia, I introduced. She's the coffee shop waitress who was injured by a white truck 3 nights ago. The police have been looking for the hit-and-run perpetrator. This is slander. Victor immediately screamed. I did not run anyone over. Didn't you? I signaled again, and the massive screen behind the stage lit up. The first video was from the warehouse's back entrance surveillance, clearly showing Victor and Trevor leaving in the white truck at 7:48 p.m. on the night of the incident. The second was a hidden recording from the repair shop, showing Victor negotiating with the mechanic to fix the front bumper dent. The third video was the most damning, a recording of Victor talking to a friend in a bar. That night, Trevor drank too much and accidentally ran over a waitress while driving. But don't worry, I've already sorted it out. Nobody knows about the car repair. The police can't find us. Thank God that woman wasn't seriously injured, or we'd be in real trouble. The evidence was so airtight that Victor stood there on stage, completely speechless. And that's not all, I continued. Victor is not just a hit-and-run criminal. He's also a commercial fraudster. I gestured to the side of the stage, and old Ernesto walked up, followed by a dozen farmer representatives. This is the contract Victor signed with the Farmers Cooperative 3 days ago. I held up the stack of papers. The price is only half the market rate, and the condition is that the farmers must completely cut all business ties with me. Ernesto stepped to the microphone. As the representative of the Farmers Cooperative, I hereby declare that we refuse to cooperate with Victor. He used deception and coercion to try to sign these agreements, which is unacceptable in our culture. We only do business with honest and trustworthy people. The farmers roared in agreement, tearing up their copies of the contract right there. Victor's face went from white to a sickly blue. He knew that without these farmers, his avocado export business was dead in the water. There's more, I announced. For the last 2 years, Victor has been privately embezzling company funds, totaling over 16 million pesos. I handed a detailed financial report to a reporter in the crowd. This is an independent certified financial audit report. It proves Victor's systematic theft. Victor finally cracked, screaming hysterically. Enough! You despicable liar! You set me up. I set you up? I smiled scornfully. Who was in my bed with my wife? Who stole my customer lists and trade secrets? Who spread rumors that I was bankrupt? And who tried to buy my company on the cheap when I was most vulnerable? The entire ballroom was utterly silent, everyone stunned by the dramatic collapse. And finally, regarding that golden contract you're so proud of from Freshmart, I said, looking toward the entrance. A well-dressed American man walked in. My friend Derek, looking even more authoritative tonight in a sleek black suit. Mr. Morales, Derek said, his Spanish perfect. I am Derek Hamilton, Director of International Acquisitions for Freshmart. I regret to inform you that the exclusive invitation you received was a trap from beginning to end, used specifically to expose business fraudsters like yourself. Derek held up a document. This proves you falsified signatures attempting to use the Harwell Company's reputation to fraudulently obtain contracts. Under U.S. commercial law, that is a serious felony. Victor completely crumbled, falling to the floor. All his dreams, plans, and ambitions dissolved in that one instant. He tried to get up and protest, but his legs gave out, and he collapsed again. Derek walked over to me and handed me a real contract. Declan, based on your years of honest business practice and quality supply, Freshmart is willing to sign a long-term cooperation agreement with you. The initial contract amount is 100 million pesos. If the first year goes well, we will significantly expand the order size. The ballroom erupted in applause and cheers. At that moment, Celeste lost it. She lunged at Victor, clawing at his suit and screaming the most vicious curses. Wastrel, liar. You said you would buy me a villa. You promised me a rich life. Where's my money now? My 10 million pesos. My parents worked their whole lives for that. Victor weakly shoved her away. Shut up. This is all your fault. If you hadn't seduced me, I never would have betrayed Declan. I watched them coldly, tearing at each other like rabid animals. Celeste's voice became a shrill, piercing scream as she retaliated. Seduce you? You pursued me first. What did you say back then? You said Declan was finished. That only you could lead the company to success. You promised me the best of everything in the world. Every word she spat was a slap in Victor's face, and a confession of her own foolish, ugly past. Everyone watched her meltdown. The once arrogant couple now looked like two drowning dogs ripping each other apart. Suddenly, Celeste remembered something else and asked, horrified, "Wait, what about Gutierrez's money?" Victor's face went instantly corpse white. "We're finished. Finished. He's going to kill me." Just as the two adulterers were hysterically blaming each other, the ballroom doors swung open again. Three huge, mean-looking men entered, led by Gutierrez himself. He was about 50, powerfully built, with a long scar across his face and eyes as cold as a snake's. "Victor," Gutierrez said, his voice flat and icy. "I heard you were celebrating a big deal tonight, so I came to see. But now it seems my 6 million pesos are more important than your business." Victor's face was completely ashen. His knees buckled, and he actually peed his pants. A dark, spreading spot appeared on the front of his trousers. "Mr. Gutierrez, please, just give me some time. I promise I'll pay you back," he pleaded. "Time?" Gutierrez laughed, a mocking sound that showed off his gold teeth. "You didn't ask for time when you signed the contract. Do you remember what I said? In my business, there is no such word as bankruptcy. Only payment." He gestured, and two subordinates grabbed Victor's arms, dragging him away like a sack of garbage. Victor thrashed, tears and snot streaming down his face, begging everyone for help. "Save me. Somebody please save me. Police. Call the police." No one moved. They watched, stone-faced. In Mexico, people know there are some things the police cannot, and will not, handle. Mexicans have an old saying, "Debts are paid." It's just the natural order. With Gutierrez's money, unless you pay in full, the only option is death. As he was dragged toward the exit, Victor looked up at me and began to beg on his knees. "Declan, for the sake of our years of friendship, save me. I know I was wrong. I was truly wrong. I can give you all the money back. Please, I beg you." I slowly walked down from the stage and stopped right beside him. I crouched down, leaning close to his ear, and whispered a voice only he could hear. "For 2 years, Victor, you slept with my wife. You spent my money. You tried to steal my company. Now, tell me how it feels." Victor's eyes went wide as he finally, fully understood that this entire disaster was my doing. You knew everything from the start," he whispered, trembling. "From the very first day," I confirmed. "You thought I was defeated. I was just waiting for the perfect moment for revenge." I stood up, pulled a silk handkerchief from my pocket, wiped the tip of my shoe with it, and tossed it into Victor's face. "Take him," I told Gutierrez. "He's all yours." Gutierrez's men hauled Victor out of the ballroom. His final, muffled screams faded down the hallway. Meanwhile, several police officers entered and arrested Celeste on charges of conspiracy to commit commercial fraud and accessory to hit and run. She screamed her innocence, but no one listened. "Take this recording," I told the police, handing them a USB drive. "This contains evidence of her admitting knowledge of and helping to cover up the hit and run." Celeste looked at me, utterly broken. "Declan, you can't do this to me. We were once husband and wife." "Precisely because we were once husband and wife," I said coldly, "your betrayal is the one thing I can never forgive." The entire atmosphere of the party instantly changed. The people who had doubted me, who had kept their distance, now rushed forward, practically fighting to congratulate me. Old Ernesto and the other farmers surrounded me, reaffirming their loyalty and trust. As the party wound down, I went back on stage and tapped the microphone, drawing everyone's attention one last time. "Dear friends, what you witnessed tonight was shocking, I know. But for me, this is the moment I waited for 2 long years." I scanned the room, my gaze firm. Some people confuse patience with weakness. They think silence is surrender. But in Mexico, we have an old saying, "The snake in the grass is the most lethal." From today, the Harwell Avocado Export Company will be reborn. I thanked everyone who supported me, naming Santos, Rico, and Ernesto. Without their loyalty and trust, I wouldn't be standing here. Finally, to those who have betrayed me or hurt me, I concluded, I have forgiven you, but I will never forget. Because forgiveness is for my own soul, but not forgetting is how I protect myself from ever being hurt again. Amid thunderous applause, Derek and I officially signed the Freshmart supply contract. The next day, the local newspaper's front page featured our photo with a slightly cheesy headline. "Declan rises from the conspiracy and returns as king." My old partners loved it. That night's party ended in a strange, exhilarating atmosphere. For some, it was a triumphant celebration. For others, it was the start of a nightmare. For me, it was simply the end of a long, 2-year wait and the beginning of a new life. Over the next few weeks, the company's restructuring was swift and intense. I held a general meeting and announced a new equity incentive plan. Santos, Rico, and all the old employees who had stayed during the difficult times received shares. I formed a joint venture with Ernesto's cooperative, tying our interests closely together for mutual benefit. I not only paid for Sophia's medical expenses, but also established a road safety fund in her name, which gave the company huge positive publicity. Victor's end was pathetic. First, he was sentenced to 2 years in prison for the hit and run. On the day of his release, Gutierrez's men snatched him up in an unmarked van right outside the prison gate. No one has seen him since. Rumors say he was shipped to a remote farm in the south, forced to work 18 hours a day to pay his debt. But most people believe his body is already buried in the desert somewhere. That's just how Mexican justice works sometimes. No one was surprised, and no one asked questions. Some debts just don't get settled in court. Celeste was fined and given a year of probation for her role in the commercial fraud. She lost all her assets and was forced to move back to the countryside with her parents. Her former friends avoided her. She eventually ended up working as a cashier at a small-town grocery store. About a year later, I was at the groundbreaking ceremony for a new company project. Afterward, old Ernesto approached me and quietly handed me his phone. The screen showed a video of Celeste in a noisy rural grocery store. A large customer was pointing his finger at her and yelling about wrong change. "Stupid woman. You can't even do simple math. No wonder you ended up like this." Celeste kept her head bowed, repeating apologies. I'm sorry. I'll calculate it again." Her face was drawn, all her former arrogance gone. The designer clothes were replaced by a cheap work uniform, and her hair lacked its old shine. Ernesto smiled. "This is karma, boss." I looked at the pathetic woman in the video, my face completely expressionless. I simply handed the phone back to Ernesto. "She deserves it," I said, and walked away without a second glance. 3 months after that, at an industry dinner, I met Catalina, the owner of a logistics company. She was a fierce, intelligent Mexican beauty in her 30s who had built her own territory in a male-dominated industry. When an arrogant American competitor publicly mocked my past failures, Catalina didn't just clink her glass with mine. She walked straight over to the American and said, "In Mexico, it's not about who has the most money. It's about fists and friends. You have neither." She then turned to me. "Come on, let's have a real tequila. The drinks here aren't strong enough." We left side by side, leaving the American gaping in bewilderment. Outside, Catalina looked at me with a touch of admiration in her eyes. "I know your story. You can't use methods meant for sheep when you're dealing with wolves. You did exactly what you had to do." Her comment resonated deep inside me. In the battlefield of business, kindness has to come with fangs, or you'll be mercilessly destroyed. Catalina soon became my girlfriend, then my wife. She was everything Celeste wasn't, beautiful, but with her own career and strong opinions. Most importantly, she had principles and understood what true loyalty and partnership meant. Our wedding was small, just our closest friends. Ernesto was my best man, and his toast is something I'll never forget. Life's setbacks are like a cup of strong coffee. They're bitter at first, but they make you more alert. Declan has shown us that true strength isn't about having no scars. It's about being able to get up and fight, even with them. Today, 3 years later, my company is one of the largest avocado exporters in Mexico. We have long-term partnerships with multiple international supermarket chains. Last year, our annual revenue exceeded 400 million pesos, 10 times the grand plan Victor had bragged about. Looking back, those 2 years feel like a long, dark nightmare. But thankfully, I woke up. In Mexico, we have one final saying: you bow your head for years just to deliver a fatal blow. That, I realized, is the true art of revenge. I took 730 days to turn their heaven into a living hell. Some people don't deserve forgiveness. They only deserve an ending written by their own greed and stupidity. Have you ever had a moment in your life that made you decide to stop being a good person? Have you ever been betrayed by the person you trusted most? And like me, did you choose to explode immediately or wait silently for the perfect moment for revenge? Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Share your thoughts about this story in the comments.